Matters with Paul Rosen.
Our diets, our Western diets in America are just really, you just don't realize how poor they really are.
What would you say to others who would like to feel better?
Sometimes you need to find the instruction. That's where the testing and everything comes in, because without that knowledge, there's no way I could have got to the point where I'm at today.
Straight talk about health.
And then I start preaching and telling them what I've been doing. And this guy named Paul Rosen has changed my life.
With your host, Paul Rosen.
By the way, the information contained in this program is not approved by the FDA, nor intended to treat, diagnose, or claim to cure any medical condition or disease as defined by Western medicine. However, skilled practitioners of many disciplines have found nutrition response testing to be a highly reliable supportive technology for assessing the health and fitness of the body's functional system.
Superfoods, Paul. What exactly are we talking about when we say superfoods?
Well, what is a superfood anyway?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
A superfood is a nutrient-rich food considered to be especially beneficial for health and well-being.
Okay, now to me it sounds like a marketing gimmick. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're right. It made the term became very, very. It has become very popular, and that made the individual who wrote the first book using the term superfood. He reaped some riches from that, as well as some notoriety. And for that, honestly, anything that brings to the fore to help people recognize the importance of fresh food, I'm all for it.
So superfoods are fresh foods usually?
Yes.
Or always?
They're always.
Okay, so
herbs. Fresh foods are herbs.
There may, in fact, be some benefits to superfoods.
Oh, there's no doubt that there's benefits.
Okay, so it's not a complete con, right?
No,
okay,
it's not except, as all fads do, there becomes a little bit of con to it.
So I'm guessing that while these things may, in fact, be beneficial, maybe those benefits have been exaggerated in some cases.
Yeah, you start to look out for, oh my gosh, you just look for a superfood or whatever. My take, and this has been my experience, my clinical experience, is fresh food. I sign off my show every week with the term, keep yours fresh. And I do that intentionally because superfood or not, fresh food is nutrient-rich food, right, that is considered to be beneficial for health and well-being. So do we really need a list of superfoods? No, we don't. But it does bring attention to the fact that fresh food and fresh food only is nutrient-rich.
And that is no small benefit, right?
That is no small benefit. And as I say, for that, I'm very grateful because, whatever brings to the fore that people can attach themselves to or associate themselves with respect to fresh food and that related to health in general, I am 100% behind.
However,
what I'm not behind is the lists and so forth that this food is better for that and that food's better for this and all that sort of stuff. Eat fresh food, eat plenty of it, eat a variety across the board, no matter what, unless, and this is a big unless, you have access to a technology that can help you with certainty figure out which foods are best for you and which foods you should avoid. That is where nutrition response testing steps in. That is an indispensable technology, certainly for my own health and all of the people that I have been fortunate enough to help in my clinic.
So to go back for just a second, Paul, for example, blueberries are a fresh food, and there's benefit to that. But as a superfood, blueberry growers and marketers will say they can help you alleviate the chance of heart disease. True or false?
I don't know the research behind that. I mean, that's a general statement like the word natural. Fresh food will help with heart health. Fresh food in general. And there's certainly more than blueberries to that. And the other thing is, why would you want to limit improving one or more organs rather than your entire body. You said, oh, I'm eating this superfood for my heart. I'm eating this superfood for my gallbladder. I'm eating this superfood for my... Forget it. Fresh food. To make a list of superfoods is just, to me, that goes beyond that's where the marketing hype comes in.
And I bet I have an answer for your speculation there, Paul. They picked the heart because it has an emotional connection. I think if you say, hey, this will improve your heart, that's more likely to get the attention of consumers than saying, hey, this is good for your spleen, because nobody really cares. We can relate more directly to what's good for our hearts.
Indeed. And again, that might be the association, the inspiration for someone to actually eat a fresh food.
Right.
So I get that, and I'm on board with that. Bottom line is fresh food. You don't need to look for superfoods. What you need to do is embrace nutrient-rich, fresh food of all stripes and natures. When you go into your local market, just simply walk around the perimeter, and you will bump into the fresh foods.
And there are other things that are even more faddish, like quinoa. That's touted as a superfood, and that seems to have gained traction a lot in recent years.
Well, it has because of the gluten-free fad, right? So that's how quinoa has become so popular. But it's very interesting. Those old world grains like quinoa or kamut or other types of grains were grains that were grown, especially in cultures and in countries that are much poorer than the industrialized world. And by making those grains popular, they make them more expensive to the population in those other countries. This is an unintended consequence, which causes the price of these things to go up, which makes them less attainable for the population at large.
So that is unfortunate.
It is, and it's an unfortunate consequence of the popularization of a food like like these alternative grains.
Well, that's to be considered for all those consumers out there who consider themselves conscientious consumers, not just for themselves.
Something to consider.
Yeah, something to think about. And certainly there are other foods available, fresh foods, which may give you the same health benefits, right?
Tons of fresh foods. I mean, just as I say, just go to your grocery store and look at your cold case with your vegetables of all stripes and natures and the fruits that are over there. And, of course, don't forget the, meat and cheese counters, eggs, fermented foods, tons and tons of stuff, all nutrient dense, none of which, when you read the label, should have any kind of, preservative, synthetic chemical preservative of any sorts.
I also see in doing our research about blueberries in particular that some refer to it as the original superfood. So I think blueberries actually were ahead of the curve on this, or I should say blueberry marketers were ahead of the curve.
I think you have it.
Yeah, I think they jumped on this thing.
Of the curve. And of course, hey, there's nothing wrong with blueberries. In fact, there's everything right about blueberries. But yes, that's where the marketing hype comes in. And, again, I guess if that's what it takes for people to become aware of and embrace fresh food, okay, fine. But let's not get carried away. Let's recognize that there is, nothing more special about a blueberry than there is about a tomato, or there is about a Brussels sprout, or there is about a cauliflower, or there is about broccoli, or there is about eggplant, or there is about celery or carrots. There's nothing more special, nothing more super about them.
I also think if you're a careful shopper, you might want to, as a matter of course, avoid the faddish. You made the point a moment ago, Paul, that quinoa's popularity has actually made it unaffordable for people in areas that grow it. So if you're looking for superfoods or fresh foods which are beneficial for your health, don't necessarily go for what's faddish, because that price point will probably be higher than it would be otherwise if the thing hadn't become a fad.
Yes, and of course that particular warning is probably, going to be as effective as don't eat sugar, but there you have it.
Well, there you go. I think a price point always makes a difference. I mean, if you can convince everybody, including me, that there is not only a great benefit to having certain fresh foods, but that they actually are affordable and will pay off in the long term in our health and our better health, well, that's certainly something to consider.
I mean, for most of us, they're more than affordable. And not only that, but they're totally necessary. So fresh food is the foundation for anybody who wishes to avoid becoming Big Pharma's cash cow, meaning by the time you're 50 years old, you're already on, 2 to 4 medications and headed, towards that summit of, 10, 12 or more medications. It's just insane. It's just a completely insane, world we live in when that's the goal, right? And of course, nobody is necessarily intentionally saying that's my goal, but the bottom line is there are only 2 roads. There are only 2. One of them is the road to Big Pharma's cash cow, and the other one is the road to a high quality of life without any medications whatsoever.
I know, Paul,
and we get to choose.
You're going to add a cautionary note to this, but this is actually one of my favorite times of year. Not only are the days longer and getting warmer, but the fresher produce is starting to become available, and soon we'll have, peaches and all that stuff you normally get beginning in late spring. I'm looking forward to that. And also, they have great big crates of strawberries now, reasonably priced at your local grocer, and I might add great big trays of blueberries. Also, you can get all that stuff. However,
one might get the idea that you are a sugarholic.
There you go. That's the cautionary note I was waiting for you to extend. With fruit in particular, that can be a major issue, right?
I mean, you take a diabetic, and any diabetic that's eating fruit is out of their mind. Any diabetic that's eating fruit is completely out of their mind. And any professional who promotes the consumption of fruit for a diabetic, in my view, is completely unethical and, maybe even criminal. I mean, because all you're doing is basically there's no diabetic who will ever have an opportunity to become free of the drugs and the consequences of diabetes if you continue to eat sugar.
Well, that does seem very irresponsible if somebody who is aware of a diabetic condition is saying to that diabetic person, go eat fruit, because we all know fruit has sugar in it. The question is, and we know where you stand on it, Paul, and many, many others, is that sugar in fruit is just as harmful for you as any other source of sugar.
I have worked with, I can't even count the number of diabetics who have come to see me who are still diabetics but no longer chained to medications whatsoever. I mean, it's that simple for most. And, the elimination of fruit is absolutely critical, is fundamental.
So other fresh foods we can search for include vegetables, for example,
Absolutely.
right?
I mean, there's a ton of foods. But the high glycemic foods, that is foods that cause the body to produce insulin in great quantities and in acute, episodic, lots of it all at once, makes it completely impossible.
And my point in bringing up that whole thing, Paul, is that, okay, fresh foods are superfoods. I'll just go and buy myself a whole bunch of produce and I'm good to go. Well, not necessarily.
Yeah, you just look around and cast your eyes on any of the fresh produce in your market, and you can translate that immediately as a superfood, any of it.
Right, but you do want to be careful about the amount of produce you take in, right, because of the sugar content.
No, you're talking fruit.
Okay. Fruit,
not produce.
Fruit.
Vegetables, there is no limit Eat away.
Really?
No limit.
I could just knock myself out.
You can
with
knock
those.
yourself out.
All right.
There is nothing, nothing about a vegetable that, no. I mean, now, again, the only caveat is, for example, I've had patients who have had chronic diarrhea.
Mm-hmm.
And as you've heard me say many times, chronic diarrhea is not an intestinal problem, it's a kidney problem. And kidneys have a very difficult time, get stressed when exposed to dark green leafy vegetables.
One more note, you can get a free chapter of Paul Rosen's book, The Missing Piece. Just go to his website, acunatural.com, acunatural.com, and fill out the dialog box that pops up. Rest assured, no information you provide will ever be shared with anyone else. So, what are you waiting for? Get going on your personal road to wellness today.